My name is Stephanie Harrington, and this is my narrated video of my annotations on American Hookup, The New Culture of Sex on Campus by Lisa Wade. First thing I've highlighted here says they've suggested that casual sex allows women to put their careers and education before men. I thought that was pretty profound. Using indicators like hotness, blondness, fraternity membership, and athletic prowess, students from a working consensus about who is hookup worthy, and that guides their decisions. One quote in here says, "I'm unable to separate my opinion from those of my friends," and I think a lot of college-age kids struggle with this. Another spot I highlighted is a body's value is determined by collective agreement. It's crowdsourced. And I thought that was just a crazy way to think of things, that it's just crazy that that's what it's come to. When someone says they hooked up last night, you'd be wise to ask them to clarify. I thought this was kind of crazy because that just seems like such a personal thing to ask them to clarify. The goal is fast, random, no strings attached sex, which is insane. Hooking up always involves actual people. Yeah, crazy. A sober hookup indicates one that is more serious. I thought it was just crazy, the absolute avoidance of emotions anyway, but because they were drunk, the logic goes it meant nothing. It's insane. Some gay men, when highly intoxicated, hit on girls and otherwise act like straight men, which never happens while they are sober. I've seen that and always thought that it was kind of weird, but whatever. If students are being careless, they can't be held responsible for what they did, but neither can they be held accountable for who they did. I thought that was a good quote. Avoiding repeat hookups helps ensure that no one gets the idea that a relationship is on the table. In none of these decades, though, did students think they were supposed to be having casual sex. But there wasn't the sense that it was what you should be doing. It is now. Hookup culture is new. Where did it come from and how did it get here? Self-pressure, something that one has responsibility to give. And that was, talking of fun. The phrase she used to chastise herself most often was loosen up. Sometimes I wish I could just loosen up and not care about things so much. I thought that was just kind of sad. Like, you shouldn't have to push yourself so hard to change into somebody that you don't want to be. The college culture encourages spontaneous, free, fun-loving attitudes and not serious, reflective ones. True. Fun and freedom often seem almost synonymous, he argued. When you're having fun, you're free, and only if you're free can you have fun. This one says, because the goal is not to begin a relationship or hookup culture to go out with as many different people as possible. And my note says, if you ever speak to an old lady about dating, they always tell you to date around as many men as you can. So that makes sense. The men called it Social Security, a guarantee that they'd have a date when they wanted one. Just crazy. A girl might be encouraged when she discovers a fascination with backyard bugs or engineering toys. I was that girl. The average woman became more masculine, and so did the average man. Objectify them back. Young women have embraced this new reality. They are no longer willing to play the angel to men's frisky devil. I loved Blue Mountain State. Before the 1900s, fraternity men had sex mostly with prostitutes, poor women, and women they enslaved. In her mind, she owed him a hookup because he was providing shelter. How ridiculous. Sex is now a part of how students do higher education. Men who attend church are actually more likely to hook up than non-religious men, which I thought was insane because of morals and values and stuff. Most hooking up happens so that someone can say they did something. Being molested is simply something that happened to me. It is not and never will be the person that I am. There's a wide range of students on campus, but the diversity is sometimes invisible because of the nearly exclusive focus on the ones who flock to the parties to hook up. The American Psychological Association would retract its claim that homosexuality was a mental disorder. It was a way to reject the degradation that they had lived with their entire lives. If the young people living it up in cities in the 1920s are the hookup generation's ideological grandparents, the gay men of the 1970s might be their two dads. Emerging adulthood, a period during which they focus on their own personal development. They'll likely have to work harder and maintain their focus for longer. The average college student will see 10 years pass between their freshman year and their wedding day. Excelling in everything in gold, it seems essential to guarantee long-term success, just doesn't leave time for romance. The sense of sexual freedom is not particularly inhibited by concern that they might contract a sexually transmitted infection. There is little motivation for them to use condoms if they feel protected from pregnancy and their partner seems clean. For women, there is the added sense that having sex is a rejection of old-fashioned and restrictive sexual mores. A combination of others' discomfort with disability stereotypes of people with disabilities as asexual in the social hierarchy that rewards perfect bodies and socially adept interactions puts most disabled students at a disadvantage in one way or another. The frontal lobes are in charge and they can be logical about sex and control their feelings if they choose to. Hooking up is not making love. In this topsy-turvy world, you have sex with people you don't like and don't have sex with people you do. In hookup culture, there are no tender initiations, even when there are. To have a laid-back attitude and absence of neurosis and no discernible passion about anything or anyone. For a moment, she felt a tight sensation in her chest that was familiar. She hadn't been chosen, but she didn't feel that way about Reed anyway. Benevolent sexism, a phenomenon in which a positive trait stereotypically attributed to women is used against them. Hookup culture isn't carefree, it's careless. Students see two categories of engagement: hard and easy, caring and careless, emotional and emotionless, and nothing in between. As far as I can tell, dating but not in a relationship is an actual monogamous relationship between two people who don't want to use the word, or it might be a pre-relationship status. Texting first is losing, she explained. They felt that it made investing in other people feel unimportant, made sex seem less special, and interfered with learning how to be a caring partner. We use the word fuck, after all, both to describe having sex and deliver one of our nastiest insults alongside a range of other invectives. You stay clearly on the easy side of the line. Suppressing Their instinct to be kind and their sense of entitlement to the same was jarring and exhausting. We tell ourselves that women are physiologically different, not as sexual as men, so we presume that release is important to them anyway. Because the culture doesn't promote reciprocity. Women in relationships are having almost 7 times as many orgasms as women hooking up for the first time. A player must be clever and mean, his comments must prick. Being single-minded about sex, sexually rough and unconcerned with her pleasure are all ways of indicating that a woman is not valued. Women who are really just innocent bystanders in this game get smeared right along with the men. It was the pleasure of being chosen. That they're doing it as a gag to please male onlookers, not because they have any real urge to be sexual with other women. On women, it puts the heavy burden of attracting and pleasing men while refusing to acknowledge that women have sexual desires independent of men. It disturbed him to know that so many women had accepted their status as sexual objects. But human conflict is almost always over rank or resources. Women are aware that being the object of male desire is a double-edged sword. For women who do this, sexual encounters can become, in one student's words, out-of-body experiences, and that inhibits their physical pleasure. In short, no matter how attractive a woman actually is, the more she worries about how she looks, the less likely she'll experience sexual desire, pleasure, and orgasm. Men and women are in conflict, ironically, because hookup culture bears down on all students equally with the same perverted imperatives. Sometimes they're just fighting to avoid the existential fear that they're nothing. Because it's a rape culture set of ideas and practices that naturalize, justify, and glorify sexual pleasure, coercion, and violence. Men are 3 times as likely to assault a woman who has been drinking as one who is not. If assault is hilarious, she concludes, they don't have to take it seriously, they don't have to respond, there's no problem. In a culture where aggressive sexual behavior is sometimes allowed and being unkind is expected, it can be difficult to know when a sexual encounter is going from hot to heated, callous to criminal, or even when the observer should think it's horrifying or hilarious. Part of rape being regulated, argues McKinnon, is that there are some people who have the power to rape with relative impunity. If hookup culture is designed to facilitate men's sexual access to women, and if both men and women tend to embrace this, if there are powerful men on campus and women that students agree are worthless, then only in the most extreme case, when with just the right conditions, will men be held responsible for gaining the access. Otherwise, the blame is squarely placed on the victim's shoulders if it ever comes to light at all. 80% of assaults of college students go unreported. Now we say that Bill Cosby is no Cliff Huxtable. Bill Cosby is a monster. Cliff Huxtable is a very good model of the good man. But we shouldn't be so confident that Dr. Huxtable is not a rapist too. Good people rape when their judgment is perverted and the circumstances are just right. Upstanding people rape, leaders of our communities, husbands, doctors. Most of them rape maybe only once. We will never know. Sociologist Alan Johnson insists, if a young Cliff Huxtable in college, perhaps or during his medical training, ever got a woman drunk or stoned or otherwise unable to say no to having sex with him, men that seem good, men that are good, sometimes rape. I absolutely disagree with this. And that is the rest of my annotations.